Okay, it is Thursday, September 8th, 2020. We are doing a Zoom meeting for the Finance and Operations Committee of the Nashua Board of Education. It is 6 o'clock. I'll take the roll. Mr. Guarino?
Here.
Ms. Johnson?
Present.
And Mrs. Oden is here. The first item on the agenda is parking passes for the high school students. Mr. Donovan, do you want to address that?
Sure. Last month at the Finance and Ops, we brought up the suggestion that we not charge for bus passes for the first half of this school year. So that the question was asked, well, if you're going to do that for the bus passes, should you then do that for the parking passes? The full BOE did approve not charging for bus passes. So since this is a revenue item in our budget, I figured the board needs to approve not only the bus pass credit for one semester, but they should also do the same thing for the parking passes.
Okay.
So that is the request in front of this committee.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody want to make a comment on it from Finance and Ops? Just so people realize it, it's $100 a year, so that would be $50 per student per car that we would not be receiving, but under the circumstances, I think it's appropriate. Okay, does anybody want to make a motion? Mr. Guarino.
Sure, I move to approve the request to waive the parking fees for high school students for the first semester of the school year.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. The motion is to waive the parking pass fees for the high school students for the first semester of the 2021 school year. Okay, Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Guarino?
Yes.
And Mrs. Oden votes yes. The motion passes unanimously. Okay, next we have the quarterly credit card report.
Okay, per the agreement on one of the policies, we're supposed to have a quarterly credit card report showing the expenses charged to credit cards in the district. So I've supplied that report. As you can see, with the onset of remote learning in the spring and following through until around now, there's been a very few charges to the credit card. We do have some monthly advertising costs, which is basically a monthly fee we pay to, I believe it's Indeed.com. And then you will notice in the month of June, there was a $14,000 item charged to the credit card, which is highly irregular. But if you also recall, back at the end of June, when at the last couple of weeks, we approved some purchases of the excess funds in the fiscal 20 operating budget. And one of those items was the purchase of new QuickBooks software, since our QuickBooks was close to 20 years old. So to do that quickly and efficiently and make sure we could get the charge into fiscal year 20, it was suggested, working with the vendor QuickBooks, to use the credit card. So that is the reason why there's one significant charge there for $14,000 in the month of June.
Thank you. That was the only question I had on the credit card report. Does anybody else have any questions or concerns? Okay, I'm looking for a motion to accept the quarterly credit card report.
So moved.
Okay,
I will second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Guarino. Ms. Johnson?
Yeah.
Mr. Guarino?
Yes.
And Mrs. Oden says yes. The motion passes unanimously. The next one is a donation from Nationwide. Do you want to speak to that, Mr. Donovan?
Sure. Typically, we do provide information on donations to the board on a quarterly basis. But I thought that this was a very nice gesture by one of our current vendors. And they provided us 240 gallons of microcide, which hopefully can be used in the new fogging equipment we bought for the classrooms. We'll ensure that it can be. If not, we'll have to use it for other purposes, but we're hoping it can be used for those. We should have an answer for that in the next couple of days. And then the 740 quarts of hand spray. They also gave us 250 infrared thermometers, which will come in quite handy, I think, for Lisa Gingras and the athletics crew, as well as our nurses in our schools. So we've already divided most of those up and handed them out. And 4,000 N95 face masks, which in this time is always in need. Those will be put in the inventory at this point and then given out as needed over the next few months. So just wanted to bring it forward and thank Nationwide for its significant donation.
It was very generous, and I'm sure it will be used. I do have a question. Miss Brown had received a donation, or was the person who the people donating worked through of, I believe it was 9,000 N95 masks.
I believe that's correct. Yes,
Okay.
I believe it was 9,000 of them.
So have we distributed some of those?
Yes, I believe that's the first. We received some masks from the state, then we received those, and then we've received these. We have begun to distribute some of those to the schools.
Okay.
I think we're going to give a few more. We're saving a number of those for when the students return.
Okay.
Because
That makes sense.
every employee received 2 to 3 cloth masks. And the N95s you can wear a few times, but they're pretty much disposable masks.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or concerns for Mr. Donovan? Okay, I'm looking for a donation a motion to accept the donation from Nationwide.
So moved.
I will second.
Okay, so the motion to accept the donation from Nationwide for 240 gallons of microcide, 740 quarts of hand spray, 250 infrared thermometers, and 4,000 N95 masks. Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Guarino,
Yes.
and Mrs. Oden is yes. Passed unanimously, and we want to thank Nationwide for their thoughtful donation, and I'm sure it will be used by many people. So thank you, Nationwide. Okay, now we're on to the fiscal year 21 August financial report.
Okay, in your packet, you received the financial report. So since it's only 2 months into the year, and those 2 months, July and August, are from a payroll point of view, much lower pay months since the teachers get paid in the summer and it relates to the previous school year. So just going through quickly, the wages full-time, there was one teacher pay. The first teacher pay was paid on the last Thursday, I believe it was August 27th. So that pay is in here. That's part of that 3.4 million in the wages full-time. sort of other few notes on here. The overtime numbers are low, but you'd expect to see that in the summer. The wages, temporary, seasonal, those numbers are high, and basically they're high because in the summer this year we hired 11 students to work with the IT department, fixing and repairing and getting ready the Chromebooks, as well as getting ready the purchase of the new desktops that was made the 1st of July. So it's those staff, and the Plan Ops hires some staff also to help with mowing the grass and cutting the fields and doing various things outside that need to be done in the summer. So those amounts are higher than you'll typically see the rest of the year.
Okay.
Other than that, the additional hours line, that's percentage fairly high spend because that's the cost of summer school. So the cost of summer school this year is probably going to be less than it typically is due to the fact that it was remote. So there should be fewer staff. Over the next month or two, we will coordinate and detail all the costs for the programs. My assumption is they will pretty much all be below budget. And then retirement and separation pay, year to date, that's 205,000 of the 800,000. Have not yet gone back, but to look to see who's been paid. But typically what I'll do is compare that to the actual number of planned retirements and compare it, and then we'll see, as most retirement pays are paid July, August, and September. So we'll see how that goes. Other than that, not too much more to say about salaries and wages. Fringe benefits is what it is. Those are estimates based upon costs from last year. The property services line, electricity, heating, gas, and water, those costs hit for the first time this month, since those are basically the July costs. We hope that the electricity, since we paid down a lot of those Smart Start programs, we're hoping that we'll see a decrease in that cost this year versus the last 2 years. We should definitely see a decrease unless something odd happens. On the second page, the copier maintenance contracts, the 87,000, that's the estimate for the 1/2 of the first year. That's how we pay that contract. So that amount was encumbered. It's in the encumbered commit column, and I'm sure it was paid a few weeks after that. In rentals, the expended to date number is high, 159,000, but it's the way we pay the Brentwood rent. We input the whole amount, it shows up as encumbered, but then we just pay it each month. So the base rent for Brentwood for this school year is 159,000. Other than that, the other services, telephone, all those services costs are pretty low at this point in time. We had our first out of district invoices for some of those students who did some summer programming. Supplies and materials, the beginning of those accounts, the office supplies, educational supplies, etc., they're actually spending them a little bit slower than they usually did because they had funds left over from last year. And so I'm sure they're still using some of those supplies. So I think you'll see that spent more evenly than it usually is. They usually have a much higher spend at the beginning of the year. And the rest of the supplies are mostly under Mr. Smith's control. They do a lot of what they call blanket purchase orders so that the various tradespeople can go out and purchase the items. So they do an open purchase order. So that's why the encumbered amounts there are a little higher than you'll see in maybe a school type cost. And then under equipment on page 3, you'll see the computer equipment number. Currently expended $244,000. That was for the purchase that we did to replace a lot of the desktops in the labs in the teachers' classrooms. And the software number is high, but we pay a lot of our softwares in the beginning of the year to use year long. And debt service, you'll notice that last month we paid the $97,000, which is the last payment on the copier plan. We will be getting our the new copier plan starting for this year is in place. We will be receiving new copiers starting next week, I believe. So one good thing about the hybrid not starting until October is we can get a lot of people in to move out those machines that are being moved out and replace them with new ones while there's no students there. So we could be a lot more efficient and effective in that way. So that's about it. Year to date, we've spent 10% of the budget, which is, like I said, a little bit lower, but the spending in the summer is lower anyway, just because of the nature of our school year. So that is pretty much it for the review of the financial report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Donovan. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Donovan?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead,
Um,
Ms. Johnson.
Thank you. I don't think we've made any decisions about the paras, some of them that might not be returning to school, have we?
I believe most of the paras are returning. The paras that are currently still here, I think we're about 40 paras short of what was in the budget. But yes, the paras have begun working at most of the schools. And I sent out some directions on paying people and basically said to have the paras, since the paras aren't in the building that much right now, just like the teachers aren't in the building that much right now, for the first month until we go back to the hybrid model, people won't be able to punch in and punch out, so that they are being requested to send their hours worked each day / week to the payroll secretary in their school. So, but I believe we had 40 openings. We did not hire any new paras, but I believe the paras outside of those 40 were hired back.
Okay. So the paras that deal with the severely disabled students who need, are they coming back, the disabled students? That really have to have that para, 1 or 2 paras with them all the time because they're wheelchair, they need, the diapers, the bathrooms. Did we really make any decision what's going to happen, the ones that stay in the district to be separated, like let's say in the portables? Because I'm hearing from some advocates that are, asking me some of these questions. So some of the ones that don't go into out of district, the severely disabled, are these paras going to be working with them? Because I'm thinking that they must be coming back into the system. They can't be remoted from home because they need such.
Yeah, for the students that you're discussing, the ones that plan on coming back for services, those paras will continue to work with those students. That's sort of a parental choice on whether the student will come back into the building. Paras will not go to individual students' homes. That's not going to happen. But if the student wants the services and wants to come into the school buildings, then yes, some of those paras that have worked with those students before will be available to them.
Do we happen to have the number of how many of them are returning and how many are not?
The special needs paras?
The special needs students coming back in, so we know how many special needs paras that we need to have. Do we haven't gotten a number yet on that?
I believe special ed is continuing to work on that as we speak, but I do believe they have they're close to getting all those. That's what they use to decide on how many of the paras we're going to need. So Marcia Bagley, who's the special ed
Yeah.
director, probably has more details on that. I don't have all the details on that at this point, but
Is it possible before our next full board meeting that we might be able to get some numbers on this? Could you request that?
I can speak with Miss Bagley tomorrow and see where she is on the status of that. But yes, I can do that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. And our final issue is the August transfer report, Mr. Donovan.
Yes, and there's only 2 transfers. So the first transfer is in the CTE program, one of the programs at South, where they just needed to move $1,980 from supplies to computer software to purchase some software for the manufacturing program. And the second one is a transfer from the South High School, where they're going to move from other services to books so that they can purchase online books that students could read. It says here during the pandemic. So
Okay.
they're providing some online resources to those students from their own individual school budget.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or concerns? I just have one. When I looked at that $10,000 transfer, I couldn't read the signature. I know often when we can't read the signatures, individuals will print their name underneath. Could we just put a reminder to people to do that if their signature isn't legible?
Yes, that is the principal, Keith Richards'
Oh,
signature.
okay.
But,
Okay. You know that.
yes,
Okay.
he's got the big K. Other
Okay.
than that, you can't read much, but the big K
Okay.
kind of gives it away.
Well, we'll know that now. Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions and comments?
I do.
Paula?
Thank you so much. First of all, Mr. Donovan, I've asked several times and I've sent emails as per the request of Dr. Mosley regarding the Chromebooks and the agreement. All I've seen is the basic agreement, and that it's going to deal with students in appropriate manners if the Chromebooks are destroyed. And it's the policy on the back. I will return the Chromebook when requested and or conclusion of, but it doesn't say what kind of condition we will and what the consequences are from the students and or the parents if it comes back damaged, because I don't think it's fair that we should ask risk management to pay for this, nor do I feel that it's fair that the taxpayers should be burdened to pay for it again. So I sent my email to Dr. Mosley as he requested back on August 24th. And I had the Chromebook loan agreement and I added my comments to it. And I only did it to him because of the fact that was, he asked me to do it. And I have my questions and it never was answered. And I've been asking this since I think the middle of the summer. And I'd like to get some answers on that finally about the Chromebook. Also, the contract. Also, I think we all got an anonymous letter here. And it had to do with safety masks issued to teachers and students of Nashua schools. And they circled the label made in China, and it said, really, are they safe? Have they been tested? And then it said, how embarrassing for the school board members of Nashua School for approving this. I don't remember us approving this. I remember that we were getting this in. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong if we approved this, but I wouldn't approve anything from China. I want it made in America. And it said, what a slap in the face to the taxpayers, where there is no U.S. manufacturers of this product. So I know I got this. I'm a little disheartened. that we're not getting products made in America. People are really concerned for products coming over from China these days, and rightly so with the virus. So I'm just bringing this up. And the Chromebooks contract. I've asked for it, and I would appreciate if I could get some answers to that. And one other thing here. Today was the first day of school for remote, and I hope everything went well today, that we didn't have too many glitches. But I got a call last night from Stacy Hines on a recorded message for 2 shifts for today for breakfast and lunch pickup times. There were 2 times, 7 to 9 a.m. and 11 to 1. There were 5 elementary schools and 2 middle schools. And I guess my question is, did we have enough food for breakfast and lunch? And number 2, did we kind of find out, have people call in prior to this so we knew exactly approximately how many lunches and breakfasts for each school to set up this prior, or how are we going to do this? Is there some type of system in place? So, or survey go out? I don't think a survey went out because I didn't see anything. So these are just my comments and my concerns, my questions. And thank you for the time. And I hope I can get some answers for this.
Okay, I could probably answer a couple of those right now. I can't answer the Chromebook one, but if you want to send me the same email you sent to Dr. Mosley, fine, I can work with Greg to get it to you. I'm not the person in charge of the Chromebooks here. That's sort of IT and the superintendent. But secondly, the masks, were they made in China, the ones we received? Yes. Most all masks are made in China. What we needed was masks available to us by the time we opened school. So we received lots of information, especially through email, all kinds of deals, and we have the best mask, et cetera, at the best prices. The key came down to which mask could we get on time for a good price. And so the masks from China, yeah, they come from China? Yes, the cloth masks did. But getting the ones from America, A, they don't have very many, and B, they just couldn't get them to us on time. So that's kind of what drove that process. And the third item, which just lost my train of thought for a second. What was your third item you brought up?
Stacy Hines and the breakfast and lunch today.
Okay.
And did everything go smoothly today for the first day?
As far as I know, I didn't hear any issues about remote learning, but they probably wouldn't contact me on that anyway. But as far as the food, yes, we have a new system in place. Our food service director, Mrs. Daigle, has been working. We've got the information out to students. You can order in advance through an online portal, or you can contact the schools. But we did prepare enough lunches and breakfasts as if we were sort of a continuation of what we did all summer. Might that number start to increase because people are going to be more at home now than they maybe were in the summer? But we do have a new online system in place to hopefully give us more accurate numbers as we go forward. So I think we've done a very good job with, I think, the food service. And we did get lots of good news from the federal government approving the ability for us to feed all our students, whether they're free and reduced or not, for the rest of this calendar year.
Are you done, Ms. Johnson?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Guarino, did you have anything?
I didn't really have anything, but I want to thank Mr. Donovan and Ms. Kinsella for their hard work and everything they do. I was at Dr. Crisp this morning voting, and I saw their usual system in place for breakfasts and lunch. So I think that, they're doing the food service, from what I saw during the summer, was doing doing a great job, and it's not always going to be perfect. Sometimes, you know, it's a little bit off. They have too much or they don't have enough, but they always, you know, they always do their best. And I want to thank them, food service people, for their hard work in what they do. I know they're on the job and working hard. So it's going to be, you know, it's a tough fall opening up remote, and it's hard on everybody, but I know we're up to the task, and everybody's doing their part and pulling for our public schools. And I hope that the students do their best this year and have a good year despite the hardships. There's a lot of hardships. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm looking for a motion to approve the fiscal year 21 August transfer report.
So moved.
I will second.
Okay. Mr. Guarino,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
and Mrs. Oden is yes. The motion passes unanimously. I think that is the end of the agenda for tonight. Am I wrong, Mr. Donovan?
No, that is correct. It was
Oh.
a short and sweet one. We'll try to
Oh.
make them longer going forward because I know how much you enjoy them.
Don't work too hard on that. Okay, thank you. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I will second.
Okay, Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Guarino,
Yes.
and Mrs. Oden votes yes. That passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody, and to all our students. I hope all is going as well as it can be expected. I know this is tough, but our staff has worked hard. I've heard from a lot of them, and I just want to thank everybody for trying to make this as smooth as possible. It's not ideal, certainly, but I appreciate the hard work of lots of people. So thank you. Motion adjourned, meeting adjourned.
Have a good night.
Have a good night, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good night. And thank you, Tara.